Hey everyone, Andre here. Today I want to give you a review of Jade City. This book was written by Fonda Lee and I've heard so many great things about it, so I decided to give it a read. Not that it required much effort for me to finally give in and read this book, which is the first of a trilogy, because I've heard so many good things about it that I really just needed to buy it to be able to read it. I knew right from the start that this book had a huge Asian influence, and that was a big yes for me because there are so few Asian influenced fantasy books that any new thing is exciting and can be opening worlds for us in the way that we see things, so it's not always Western type of fantasy. And of course, there's also the bonus that this is written by a female author, so female, Asian, there's already two new things that I don't read that often, so good to explore. I also knew already that this was a mafia slash urban fantasy set in a world not too different from ours. So, for those that don't know, Jade City is the first book out of a trilogy that is called the Greenbone Saga. There's also a couple short stories that are, I think, prequels to the main trilogy, but today we'll only be focusing on the first one, Jade City. So, this first book was published in 2017 and the blurb is as follows. If you don't want to hear anything about it, then just skip to this timestamp. And otherwise, if you want to hear the blurb, continue. Jade City follows a family who rules one of the biggest clans of Kekon, an island with a valuable resource, jade. This jade grants some abilities to the people who wear it, and because of that, it is extremely valuable not only for the natives of this island, but also for the outside world. The Kal family, the family we follow, is one of the two major clans that rules over the production and commerce of this resource. These two clans have a long history of rivalry and tension, and that should tell you what you should expect when going into this adventure. Okay, with that in mind, let's start our review. Okay, my overall thoughts is that this book is quite good. I was expecting it to be good, and those expectations were met. It's like if you mix together The Godfather with Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, the two great movies, and then you mix a bit of fantasy in it and you get Jade City. I think I'll start with my highest rated category, which is characters. This book shines on the characters it has. Every single point of view of this book brought a new perspective, not only of characters themselves, but the way people deal with similar problems or the way people view their culture or their interactions with their families. And one thing that I found was really good that Fonda Lee did great was that I wasn't bored with any of the POVs. I was always interested when we jumped into a different character, what was gonna happen with that character and what would be the next steps for them. Not only that, but I also felt that Fonda Lee was able to deepen these characters so much that I was actually thinking they sounded and they felt like people that I know, some friends that are also Asian descendant, and I would feel they are behaving in similar ways. And of course, this is a completely different setting, but you could see where Fonda Lee had inspired herself with Asian culture at least. And in fact, once I finished this book, I was recommending it already to some of my friends, and just the premise would let them become excited and they would want to read this book. So I think that shows that it is successful in that sense. So, in general, for me, characters, 5 out of 5. The plot was a bit hard to evaluate. And why is that? Well, the fact that the plot is so intertwined with the characters, so much that it feels like it's what the characters do that defines what happens next. All their choices will involve in the future. And because of that, there doesn't seem to be an overall plot in itself. But of course, there is. There is the battle between the Kal family and the other clan. But it seems that what matters are the characters, what the characters do. And of course, so what motivates these characters is what propels the plot forward. But I still enjoyed the plot. There were still plot twists that I did not see coming. And of course, there were other parts of the plot that I could see coming. They were a bit more predictable, but there was a good mix amongst everything. And I think towards the end, that was probably where the predictable or not so surprising parts came in, but it was still enjoyable. So I think for plot, I would give a 4 out of 5. Now, going into the not so goods, but still, I think, positives of this book. I think the lowest category for me, and when I say lowest, it is still quite high. It's still a positive score, and I think it's still something that Fonda Lee did quite well, was the world building. I thought the magic system regarding Jade was fascinating. I think Fonda Lee was really smart in creating this magic system that revolved around this precious stone. It seemed to have that woe and that magic. It's a magic system, so of course it will have magic, but that mystery and amazement of the magic itself, but it was also kind of scientific. It was a good mix between a hard and a soft magic system, and it allowed me to imagine all the possibilities, but at the same time wanting to know more of how this jade works. And I also like the small details about genetics and how different people may have different reactions to this jade depending on their genetics, pretty much. But so far what I said was positive. Why do I think world building is the lowest category for me? Well, I think that is more literally with the world where Kekon Island is. I mean, not directly on the Kekon Island, but more on the outside countries. I think Kekon isn't very well described and it feels very real. It almost felt like I could go to that place, that place could exist in our world. So I think that part was quite well done. And I would say that even though this world felt familiar, sometimes it would feel a bit too familiar for me. And that would be more with the things outside KCON, like I said. I felt that the two other countries that we hear about in this world didn't seem too distantly related from the counterparts here in our world in reality. It felt that Fonda Lee didn't distance herself too much from where she drew the inspiration from. I feel like maybe if we had some more details or knowledge about how these two countries were, maybe we would be able to create our own images and not replace those images from countries that we know exist in our planet. So basically what I mean is, while I feel like KCON drew inspiration from several oriental places such as Hong Kong, the other two countries, Espana and Igutan, didn't feel like they drew inspiration, but that they were more the countries they were inspired of or the regions they were inspired of. And of course, this is a perfectly fine choice that the author made, and I can respect that. It's just that for me, it wasn't the best. I would have preferred if I had more detail about the rest of the world instead of just KCON. But in fact, the whole book is spent in KCON, so it's natural for us to have a deeper, detailed world about where our characters are and not where our characters are not outside of it. And I know that Fonda Lee is trying to draw analogies between our world and this world and go through themes such as colonization or the consequences of exploration of other countries and other countries' resources. But the fact that we weren't exploring more of the world, and so those other countries seemed like our world, it was taking me out of the Jade City world and more into our own world, because then I was looking and trying to see, wait, España is not Spain or the westernized world, and Igutan is not those other countries, so on and so forth. So overall, world building for me, it gets a 3 out of 5, but it definitely has a lot of potential to increase in the next books. As for the writing style, it's good, it's direct, it goes straight to the point, and it does the job it needs to do. The prose is direct to the point, it goes where the characters need to go, and because the characters need to make such sharp decisions and fast decisions, I feel like the prose also is adequate for this book, because we also are being propelled together with the characters as they make this decision and things happen fast. I felt that the action scenes were very well described. It was done in a detailed way but not bothersome. It had that whole martial art feeling that is characteristic of Asian media, and I love that because we don't get much of that. And as for enjoyment, I think it's pretty clear that I did enjoy this book and that I'm keen to read the next one and the third one of the trilogy, possibly even the short stories. And this book was so easy to read. It did not feel like a book that had almost 600 pages. It felt that it was going by so fast. I think these two categories have potential to go beyond what they are at the moment because they're already at a very stable place, and I can see this series becoming better and better with each book. So for now, I'm gonna give it 4 stars, but immense potential to go out to 5 out of 5. So to conclude, here are the ratings for all the categories that I mentioned. We have plot with 4 stars, characters reaching their max with 5 stars, world building getting a 3 but with potential to increase, and then writing style and enjoyment getting 4 stars out of 5. So this gives us that Jade City is a strong, stable 4 stars out of 5. And it has a lot of potential because a lot of these categories could go up very easily depending on how the next book is set. And the fact is, I cannot wait to read the next book. So let me know what you think. Have you read this trilogy? Have you read this first book, Jade City? What did you think of it? Tell me which one of these books do you prefer. Comment down below, subscribe, like, and I hope you have amazing reads, and we'll see you in the next video. Adeus!